Welcome to another edition of Ed Talks. And of course, we're going to tackle Gen AI. I'm sure everyone was wondering, when's Ed going to tackle Gen AI? And actually, I think if we look back into all Ed Talks, Gen AI is just almost foundational or just embedded in almost everything we do. And I don't know, Sam, maybe someday we won't really call it out. It'll just be, the expectation, right? Gen AI will just be part of everyday life. What do you think?
Absolutely, yes. And first of all, Ed, thanks for having me here. And it is becoming more and more talk across, and the use of AI and Gen AI is going to increase. it has been around with us, but it is going to increase more and more the way we use it more meaningfully.
Yeah. So I jumped right in because I thought, actually, yeah, it'll just be part of everyday life. But for a while here, we'll have this transition. So I wanted to introduce more formally my friend and colleague, San Banerjee. And San and I first, we sort of got to know each other a little bit when you're in Dallas Fort Worth, Texas Health Resources, doing amazing things, especially during the pandemic. Followed it closely. You were sharing broadly the way Texas Health responded was really great for the community. And I know you were driving a lot of that behind the scenes with all things sort of digital. So great to have you on this Ed Talks. And yes, absolutely, we're going to talk a lot more about Gen AI and its impact in healthcare. So before we get too deep, Sam, tell us about the best concert you ever went to, or maybe first concert, or maybe they're both the same.
Yeah, so Ed Sheeran concert was the best concert that I have been to so far. It has been amazing. I was with my family. One of the best concerts I have seen. And I've seen others as well, but that was one of the best concerts that I've seen, just from the way the concert was set up and the way we all liked it, right, as a family.
Yeah, it's always better when I think, when it's a shared experience. I've gone to a couple concerts by myself just because I was by myself. Like maybe I was in Cleveland, my family was still in Dallas. And the advantage was you could get tickets at the last second, like in the front row, because you're one person, right? You can always like squeeze in. But the disadvantage is like you don't have anyone to share it with. Like this is such a cool experience. So I can kind of understand what you're saying about being with your family and enjoying it together. So tell us a little bit about your profession. So sort of how'd you get into healthcare and doing what you do today?
I think I never thought that I'll be in healthcare, to be honest, right? So I spent a lot of my initial time after I graduated from SMU in really financial services. And I was in a conference when somebody tapped and said, "Will you be interested to work in healthcare?" I had said, "You got the wrong person," to be honest, right? So, but that individual kind of pursued quite a bit. And guess what? I was in front of the chief experience officer of Humana. She ended up hiring me, and that became my healthcare journey. It has been a tremendous journey so far. I've done a lot of good things, worked in a lot of companies. And I think, Ed, I'm not going to go out of healthcare anytime soon. There are a lot of problems to solve, and it is also close to my heart because whatever you do, you can really see how it is impacting the community around us. So there's a lot of purpose in this, which I never thought that way before getting into it. And I say I will always be in healthcare till I retire, right? So, and and it has been a great journey so far. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear you say that you're going to stay in it because I can't imagine once you're in it to ever want to leave it. And the other day, and I won't name who it is, there was a fairly prominent CIO who sort of left healthcare and something else like completely different. And I was like sad for healthcare. And, I can't imagine doing anything other than healthcare, because as you were pointing out, at the end of the day, we're really helping people and helping people in many different ways and helping our community. So there's something super altruistic to it. So yeah, let's jump into Gen AI. Obviously, it's the big raise, the big buzz. In your opinion, how can Gen AI help the healthcare industry? Where is it being used or can be used?
Yeah, so I think before I answer that question, Ed, I like to kind of give some basics first, right? Because I think there's a lot of hype and understanding in terms of what it is. AI has been there in the industry for a long period of time. And AI has been used so far to augment what people can do. And that technology has grown up quite a bit. Gen AI is more about the AI techniques generating whatever is needed to really augment anybody's task or a process, and machine doing a lot more than what we anticipate machine to be doing, right? And the reason Gen AI is becoming more and more relevant in healthcare, it is all about dealing with people. It is a lot of information, a lot of things around the journeys that are disconnected, to be honest, right? So Gen AI really can help, first of all, reducing the load for our providers, which I'm very excited about. There's a lot of burnout for our providers to really ensure that they can be supported in the right way. There's a lot of cognitive overload on patients as well, because they're trying to figure out where they have to really go. Gen AI really can help with patient access and things like that. And then if you think about clinical information is huge, right? There's a lot of clinical information across journeys. Gen AI really can be used to really ensure these information are processed properly. They are all kind of connected well, and right things can be provided to the provider so then they can support the care that it is. So I am personally very, very excited about this. And I think that there's a lot of promise in the way we can meaningfully use it.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good foundation from which to springboard. And you're right, it has been around a long time. What do you think are a couple of the drivers why it's suddenly becoming so popular?
Yeah, so one is three things in my mind, right? One is there is the technology has evolved quite a bit, right? So it is becoming easier for business users to really adopt this kind of things, right? So if you think about technology user and business users can find it easy to adopt because there's a lot of improvement in the technology itself. So that's number one. Number two is, in general, there is a tsunami of data that is around in healthcare, right? And a lot of other industries. So everybody needs a machine to really kind of analyze and ensure that things can be interpreted in the right way and connected in the right way. And also, I think primarily patient and consumer expectations are changing and growing, right? So it is in a place where there is a lot more patients expect from us, which basically means it is not possible for human beings to do everything to really ensure they're up to speed with whatever patients and consumers are asking. So a combination of a lot of these things is driving a real change in the way we think about how we support our patients and how consumers have to be supported as well.
Yeah, we certainly have come a long way with compute power and things of that nature, sort of behind the scenes that, like as you were pointing out, really kind of turbocharged capabilities today. And imagine what it's going to be like in the future. And I know we'll talk a little bit about that, but as we get into quantum computing and Gen AI, it'll be super, super exciting, what the outcomes might be. How are healthcare organizations today adopting Gen AI? So we'll stick to today, but then we'll talk about future after we talk about, hey, current state.
So I will say today it is a mixed bag, right? That's the true, honest answer, right? Everybody is kind of looking at what Gen AI really can do. Many enterprises are a little bit ahead in adoption because they have done some pilots. They have tried to understand what the technology is all about. The fact is, many people do not understand the technology and the use really well, right? So that's the fact, right? So it's a mixed bag. But everybody is very aligned in the promise that it brings in and the kind of outcome that it can bring in. So I'll give you some examples. Some of the health enterprises that I'm aware of, they have been looking at Gen AI efforts to really look at all the scan images and different kind of MRIs and scan images, which really Gen AI can put it all together and help a provider really utilize the right information from a patient care perspective. A lot of health enterprises are looking at providers being supported by Gen AI so that the note taking, all the administrative stuff that a provider does can be automated, right? And these are real things, right? Then a lot of enterprises are looking at patient access, scheduling, AI-based assistant, virtual assistants helping in patient access. So I will say that it is still early, a lot of exploration is needed, but a lot of enterprises are really getting real into this. And obviously there is some structure to the madness here, right? If you do it well, it really kind of helps and adds to what you really can do with this technology itself.
Yeah, to your point, I was just thinking back even 4 or 5 years ago, being approached by the leaders of our, radiology, of course, lab, derm, all these image intensive sort of specialties. And were already, leveraging these sort of capabilities. And now we're seeing it proliferate in other areas of the business as you're speaking about. So it's pretty exciting times. And, one thing I want to talk about as well, and I don't want to jump back and forth, but while it's on my mind, is the average health system. So I think, you and I have worked for health systems that may be a little bit more sophisticated, like in, maybe academic, where a lot of the drive for AI is coming from academics, from researchers, from individuals who are always sort of pushing the bleeding edge. But what would you say to someone who is at an average hospital, and I don't mean anything wrong by average, just, your typical hospital that's doing great things in their community? How would you recommend approaching AI? So like they hired you and San came in and said, and they weren't doing anything. Yeah. So what might your suggestions be?
Yeah, so I think a thoughtful approach, and typically, this is something that I've been putting my head around. There's a 7-step approach that somebody really can do to drive adoption of effort around generative AI. Specifically thinking about what the business objectives should look like. How do you define business objectives? That is one big thing that anybody can put their head around. Second is select the appropriate data, which is, really gather, clean, and label the right data sets that you need. And then build your AI setup on a scalable infrastructure, because infrastructure cost can really spiral very high if you do not plan it well. The fourth is start small. Look at small business use cases, which has a little bit of ROI, build your models, train models effectively, which basically means do a quick model, train it effectively, ensure that you start small and then scale up. The fifth one I'll say is maintain and monitor the models, because creating the models is just one part of this, but you have to ensure that you are monitoring and maintaining these models with all the data that is coming into your enterprise. And then the sixth one is ensure compliance. That compliance is very important. Conduct risk assessments, ensure that document is processing right. You do not do anything which really kind of compromises any kind of compliance and patient safety, right? And then the last one I will say is collaborate across teams. AI is not one team effort. It is an enterprise effort, right? Bring along other teams with you to really be successful. So my input and advice will be any small enterprise can start Gen AI efforts, right? You can start it small, be thoughtful about it. And this technology is proven. It's not that it is not a proven tech. The tech is proven. It is all about ensuring that the program is there and the adoption happens across teams in an enterprise.
All right, San. So that was really good, meaty stuff right there. And for those who were listening, I just want to repeat the 7, because this is like a best practice sort of thing. So it's define the business objectives, select the right data, clean data. Third, build scalable infrastructure. Fourth, start small, use case. Typically good best practice. Don't try to boil the ocean. Pick something, prove it, get better, iterate, get better at it. Number 5, maintain and monitor the work, the data in the model overall. Yep. And 6, ensure compliance. So just like you should with anything else, do your assessments, make sure things are accurate and working correctly. And of course, throughout that whole thing is collaborate, sort of that team of teams approach. So it's not an IT thing. It's not a digital officer thing. It's not a finance thing, or wherever it might live in your particular organization. It really is a team of teams. So that's really good. Those are 7 steps that people could take for successful implementation.
Yeah, and this is what I've seen, because we have been trying to think, even I've been trying to think, how do we really tackle all of this? And this is the best I could really come up based on the experience that I have got so far. And also, I've been reading this around for a long period of time. this really helps to put a structure. Without a structure, it becomes a little bit difficult thing to conquer, especially with so much thing happening around this.
Yeah, I think already organizations suffer, depends on who you read, but like with the Project Management Institute, only 30% of projects succeed. Let's just say it's 50%. And a lot of it is because there's no structure, or there's certainly not a team of teams. So it's good to have some sort of process orientation, like you're suggesting, and that'll give higher odds. Otherwise, especially with new technology, San, I think that percentage of failure rate is going to get higher because now you're dealing with newer technologies for a lot of organizations. So it really behooves everyone to leverage some sort of structure. So thank you for sharing yours. So what about the biggest challenges to implementing these sort of use cases and driving Gen AI adoption?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Ed, right? And many people and many of us are kind of thinking and struggling with that as we speak, right? So I think here is the three things I'm going to tell you. One is healthcare has a lot of data. So ensuring that data is all right, data is all clean, data is not shared inappropriately with anybody else is a big challenge, and that has to be overcome. So whenever you are playing with the data, you have to ensure that you understand the source, you understand who you're sharing with and how you're sharing with, right? So that's number one. Number two is it's all around ensuring there is compliance checked up as well. In healthcare, patient safety is very important. Quality and patient safety is very important. We should not do anything that compromises that, right? So ensuring that the safety and compliance is checked out, all models are checked out from a compliance standpoint. And then the third is really there is a lack of talent in this space, right? There's an overall lack of talent, people who understand the skills. And there is a general skepticism, which I will say is there something to be overcome because there is a lot of hype around AI and Gen AI. But overall, if you look at the general community, especially in healthcare, there's a general skepticism. A lot of people don't believe in this, and they're just basically saying, let's wait and watch. And definitely providers are not completely bought in yet, right? I'll make that statement because they know it is important. They know there's a lot of potential, but they don't know how their world is going to change. And they are one of the key parts in healthcare. So I will say those are some of the key challenges that has to be worked through. And the good news is a lot of these challenges are something that can be overcome, but there's a lot to overcome at this point of time.
That made me think about what ideas would you have for someone just to get educated and knowledgeable on AI, right? We see it in the headlines, we see it in the news, and we understand that it's going to become more and more important. So if I'm someone who doesn't have much of a background on it, what might be one or two ideas that you would recommend for that person?
Yeah, so I think, as I said, many enterprises, I'll recommend doing a center of excellence approach, right? Do a small COE. This is not because it cannot be everybody's job every day. There can be a set of people that needs to think about it on a daily basis, saying this is how we are going to make progress in this. So make a small COE approach, think about the business use cases, shift it as much left as you can, which basically means involve your business users as much as you can. They may not be in the game yet, but shifting it left from tech to business is something that I'm going to recommend because they have to be part of this whole process. So build a center of excellence, try to get your business stakeholders together, create a controlled environment where you can do tests and pilots, define a controlled environment for which you may need some help. And provide some guardrails, define some guardrails in the enterprise itself, saying this is what control environment looks like. You cannot share things with anybody else. This is how you share it. And then once the COE has these legs and arms kind of built out, then it can be disseminated across the enterprise and the COE can go away, right? Then it becomes everybody's job. So that's probably the best thing I can share, Ed, which I think many enterprises have adopted to be successful.
San, I thought you were going to have as one of your suggestions just to go to Chat GPT and say, hey, tell me about Gen AI. because I'm sure it'll spit out some lessons for people.
Yeah.
So this is really, really good information and really appreciate you sharing. We covered a lot of ground. We talked about the model, which was great. You shared with us a 7-step model. We talked about kind of the challenges and that you laid out, and then also the risk mitigation associated with that. And then if you're like me, if you're like the average person, like, oh, I hear a lot about Gen AI, you know, what are some steps that I can take? You gave us 3 or 4 ideas around that on how to educate ourselves. So really super practical. Is there something I missed asking you, San, or something that we did talk about that you want to double down on? I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, no, I think we pretty much covered well. Obviously, there are advanced stuff that probably I'll come back once again talk about it. But there is a real skilling, reskilling that has to be done from a workforce perspective. We didn't get to talk about it,
Yeah.
which basically means that it's not about the skills that the enterprise has or the people have. Adoption also means reskilling the workforce, right? How workforce is going to adopt all of that. That's a hard part of the job. That's change management. The core of this is change management, ensuring that skilling, reskilling happens fine. And that's how the trust happens with and technology like this, and the scale up happens in the true sense. I think the inherent thing that people are really avoiding is really talking about the skilling, reskilling, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of things that has to be reframed to really make the way for Gen AI within an enterprise.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're seeing that, right? In job titles, job descriptions, you know, prompt engineers. I know it was big news, you know, earlier in 2023 when one health system announced they were hiring their first Gen AI analyst, you know. So yeah, I think you're right. There's going to be a lot of workforce opportunities, right? There's going to be new skill sets required and new career pathways. It's kind of exciting, right? If you don't
Yeah.
take it as a fear thing, but like a opportunity thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you framed it really, really well. And I see there's so many good things coming ahead of us, right? Which we have never seen. And I'm excited to really see this in the next couple of years, which is very, very exciting for me.
Yeah, Sam, this has been fantastic. We're going to have you back. And I think in each of those different areas that we spoke about, kind of just focus in one of those areas each time and really share sort of these emerging best practices that are occurring. So I appreciate you taking the time to be on Ed Talks and sharing, you know, all the things that you've learned already and from your background and experience, and just letting it be useful to other people in the industry.
Absolutely. Happy to help, Ed. And it was always a pleasure talking to you, right? Always I learn a lot of stuff when I talk to you. So great to be here.
Yeah, no, likewise. I took a whole page of notes, and I won't throw those away. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to Ed Talks.